I've got a dead parks worker on the floor.
A dead what?
I've got a dead parks worker on the floor of the office.
Viewer discretion is advised for this educational documentary. If I were to write a romantic tragedy, I would consider conjuring up an image of a beautiful young woman, someone who was deeply in love and looking forward to marrying the man of her dreams, living happily together with their children, and reaching an old age together surrounded by the family that they had made. The young woman would be writing a love letter to her fiancé, sharing her rose-tinted vision. But before she could finish the love letter, a monster would enter the scene and strike her down. The pen would fall to the floor, her dreams, her future, her love, all snuffed out in an instant. This is the tragic story of Carrie Nelson. Welcome back to CASE Documentaries. I bring you true crime, disturbing stories and other things that you may later regret knowing with regular uploads every week. Please do join the quickly growing CASE family by hitting subscribe now and turning on notifications. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me. Our love and respect goes out to all those that knew and loved Carrie. Carrie Nelson was born on the 13th of December 1980 to father Stan and mother Nan. She had a younger sister named Katie. They sometimes fought, but always made up. It's just what siblings do. Carrie was described by people that knew her as well-liked and hard-working. Carrie's father, Stan, said about her, "Carrie was a sweet girl. She was kind and loving and sensitive. She was probably too sensitive. She wore her heart on her sleeve, as they say. She was loyal to her friends and committed to her family and fiancé. I always knew she loved me, no matter what." In 1999, Carrie graduated from Luverne High School in Luverne, Minnesota. She had been attending college in South Dakota. Carrie started working at the Blue Mound State Park in Rock County, southwest Minnesota. She had worked at the park for the last 2 summers. Her intention was to soon go back to college and become a medical technician. She was there simply as a seasonal worker for the second summer. This was only planned to be a short chapter of her life before returning back to college. At Blue Mound State Park, there was a campground, climbing areas, an interpretive centre, which is basically a museum, and a contact station. The contact station is where Carrie was working. There she had to offer vehicle and camping permits to campers as well as to greet park visitors. Carrie loved her job there since it allowed her to be active. It also allowed her to interact with a wide variety of individuals from all kinds of backgrounds. One individual that she worked with, however, had a background that brought feelings of unease. A co-worker named Stephen was someone that concerned Carrie. She believed he could have been stalking her. Carrie told her friends that he just wouldn't leave her alone. Carrie was also aware that Stephen was a user of illegal substances, and he was even known to deal these substances whilst working at the park. The behaviour felt serious enough that Carrie was considering reporting him to the police. By 2001, Carrie had a fiancé, a man named Mike Kellen. This was a relationship that both Mike and Carrie saw growing into something that would last a lifetime. Mike said that they planned to get married, have babies, and have a life, adding, "She was everything I ever wanted." Now Sunday, May the 20th, 2001, Carrie was 20 years old. She was working the 8 AM to 3 PM shift. She worked alongside new co-worker Rebecca White that day. Rebecca was actually the daughter of Richard White, who was the manager of Blue Mound State Park. Richard, however, wasn't working that day. He instead spent the day at home with his wife, at a home that was located within the grounds of the park. It was only Rebecca's second day, so Carrie was showing her the ropes. Rebecca was going to be working mainly in the museum, so after Carrie taught her what she needed to do, at around 12:45 PM, Rebecca left the contact station and drove to the museum in the park's vehicle. This meant that Carrie was now by herself in the office. It was raining that day, and whilst working, Rebecca had gotten wet. So at around 2 p.m, she left her post at the museum and went back to her parents' house to change. This didn't take long as the house was also on the park grounds. A little after 2:30 p.m, Rebecca returned to the contact station. She entered through the back door and discovered Carrie laying on the ground. Carrie's ear was covered in blood. At first glance, this didn't look like an accident. Carrie had been attacked. Rebecca hurried out the back door and back to her house to inform her parents that something had happened to Carrie. At the same moment she left out the back door, she heard someone entering the contact station through the front entrance. Rebecca had a gut feeling that this was probably the same person that had attacked Carrie, so she quickly left without looking back. Rebecca arrived home and grabbed Father Richard, who was napping on the couch. Rhonda, Rebecca's mother, dialed 911 at 2:45 p.m. Richard hurried over to the contact station. When he reached down to check Carrie's pulse, he found that she had already passed away. Richard also dialed 911, locked the front door, flipped the sign to closed, and pulled down the blinds.
I've got a dead parks worker on the floor.
A dead what?
I've got a dead parks worker on the floor of the office.
That day, 3 911 calls were made about the incident. Rhonda made the first, Richard made the second, and a park visitor made the third. The person who entered through the front entrance of the contact station as Rebecca was leaving was actually a park visitor who wanted to buy a permit. The female visitor entered the room and noticed that the fax machine receiver was hanging from its cable, which struck her as suspicious. As she walked over nearer to the counter, she could then see Carrie laying on the floor. She fled the station and dialed 911. At this time, Mike, Carrie's boyfriend, was in Windham for a wake. Windham was around 6 hours away from the Blue Mound State Park. He tried calling her at around 3:30 p.m. This was the time that Carrie should have finished working, a great time for them to catch up. He first tried calling her cell phone and got no answer. He then tried calling Carrie's office number, still no answer. Mike was tragically unaware that Carrie's life was ended whilst writing a love letter addressed to him. A few minutes after the 911 calls were made, police showed up at the park. There were 2 grey bank bags missing from the safe. The bags contained $1,000 in each, meaning a total of $2,000 was missing. Paper was spread over the contact station's back area. The fax machine receiver was dangling from its cord as seen by the witness, giving the impression that a struggle had taken place there. The office's floor, ceiling and counter all had blood on them. Broken shards of plastic and a damaged chair armrest were visible in the office. Next to Carrie, a fragment of rock with blue mounds engraved on it was lying on the ground. Police were unable to locate the rest of the rock, which was normally kept at the office as an ornament. Next to Carrie's body was a damaged Field Ranger wristwatch, along with a packet of Doral Light 100 cigarettes. Co-worker Stephen was someone that raised a high level of suspicion immediately. Police marked him as a person of interest. A possible motive for the attack could have been some kind of crime of passion. After all, Carrie believed he was stalking her. It even could have been that he had discovered Carrie was going to report him to the police, and this was a way of silencing her to ensure he remained out of the gaze of the police.
My beautiful little girl will never come running into my arms again saying, "I love you, Daddy." Whoever did this must be caught so that they can never do it again.
All traceable park visitors were contacted by police, which brought forward quite a few witnesses. Carrie was spotted outside the contact station at 1:30 p.m. This was according to a couple who were camped out in the park. At 1:52 p.m, another camper observed Carrie in the contact station as they entered to buy a permit from her. The window when this attack could have happened was getting smaller. In what seems like something from a movie, a love letter written by Carrie helped the investigation to progress. Carrie had been writing the letter to her fiancé, however the letter wasn't finished. It cut off partway through. On it, she had written the time and date, 20th of May, 2 p.m. This love letter and the information that could be deduced from it led the police to believe that the assault took place approximately between 2 and 2:30 p.m. Just before 2:30 p.m, an Oldsmobile or Monte Carlo with 2 doors and a brown vinyl top drove past the campsite as seen by a couple staying there. They said it was driving well above the speed limit, something that stood out to them. The police investigation continued to progress with Carrie's autopsy. Her cause of death was revealed to be blunt force trauma with multiple traumatic injuries to the brain. At least 5 blows to the head were recorded in Carrie's case, but the pathologist thought there may have been more. The pathologist found that Carrie's head injuries were caused by severe blows that were delivered with a lot of power. Carrie's death was declared a homicide. Most of the engraved rock that was used to strike Carrie was missing. It was, however, later located in a creek. The pathologist concluded that it was most likely that this rock caused Carrie's head injuries. DNA samples were taken by police from the contact station. Carrie's DNA was found in the bloodstains and blood spatter in the room. Carrie's co-worker Stephen was still under investigation and was very much a suspect in her passing. His alleged history of stalking Carrie left fingers pointed in his direction. Under further investigation, it became clear that he had no alibi for the time that Carrie was believed to have passed. Police took fingerprints and DNA samples to further the investigation. The shattered wristwatch that was discovered close to Carrie's body included 5 DNA mixtures. A DNA mixture are profiles made up of the DNA of 3 or more different people. There was, however, no evidence that the watch belonged to Stephen, and his DNA did not match any profiles found at the scene. In fact, there were no matching results in the entire Minnesota forensic database. Other DNA sample databases from surrounding states were searched for a profile that matched the unidentified DNA samples from the wristwatch. These too came back with no positive results. Stephen was now ruled out of the investigation, leaving the police stunned and scrambling for new suspects. However, with no new information or leads, the investigation into Carrie's passing ground to a halt. The case was closed as a result. As DNA analysis methods advanced over the years, a second look at the DNA discovered on the wristwatch was conducted. In the early 2000s, DNA testing became quicker, more accurate, and required a smaller sample to generate a profile. With new methods and technology, authorities conducted new searches of the Minnesota DNA databases, as well as databases from neighboring states in April 2007. South Dakota's database discovered a potential match: a man named Randy Lee Royal Swaney. Police took a fresh DNA sample from Randy, who at the time was imprisoned in South Dakota for burglary. It confirmed that his DNA was part of the DNA mixtures discovered on the watch. Additional investigations revealed that his wife, Dawn Swaney, may also have contributed to some of the DNA found on the watch. Without these DNA matches, Randy would not have been involved in the investigation. He wasn't registered as a visitor to the park that day, so didn't get questioned by the police in the early stages of the case. There was also no evidence that he and Carrie had any previous relationship or dealings, either professionally or personally, on any level. This prior lack of connection meant that more evidence was needed to build a believable case. Investigators sought to strengthen Randy's connection to Carrie's passing, or to eliminate him from their investigation. At the crime scene, multiple prints were identified. Randy's right palm print, left palm print, and left thumb print were found on a flyer. The flyers were strewn around the floor near Carrie's body. Randy's finger and palm prints were compared against the latent prints discovered in the contact station. 2 palm prints found on the counter at the contact station were also identified as Randy's. Police examined Dawn's alibi, that's Randy's wife, for the day that Carrie passed. They could indeed confirm that Dawn was at work at the time. She then went on to aid the investigation. She gave police permission to inspect a storage facility that she had rented. They discovered some family photos which would prove to be extremely useful. Randy can be seen in a few of the pictures smoking Doral Light 100s and sporting a Field Ranger wristwatch. Other pictures showed him driving an Oldsmobile Delta 88 in cream with a brown vinyl top, the same vehicle that was seen by witnesses at Carrie's location at around 2:30 p.m. on the day that she passed.
I'm Paul Soflin. I'm an agent with the State Crime Bureau, Minnesota. And Randy, we investigate crimes all over Minnesota type of thing. And we wanted to talk to you a little bit about some things here that had come up. Well,
I don't know. I mean, I don't understand. I guess, first of all, I'd like to know what's going on.
Well, we wanted to talk to you about, possible crimes you may be able to help us with, or that you could be involved with. I don't know, that type of thing. So that's what we wanted to talk to you about. But, you're having those rights in mind. You got to decide now. You can stop answering at any time, and that's what I told you. So.
Right. Yeah, and at this point, I guess I would like to have a lawyer because I don't understand what's there.
All right. I guess we are finished. We would like to talk to you. I mean, it's something that, can put you in or put you out.
What way? I don't understand.
Well, I don't know if we tell them it's in regards to a case in Rock County, Minnesota.
Rock County?
Yeah. A few years.
Okay.
But you lawyered up, so, if you don't want to talk to us, if you change your mind, then you can call us.
Dawn spoke to Randy on the prison phone. The line was tapped and recorded by the police.
How you doing?
Nothing. You're not coming up to visit?
No.
Why not?
I was talked to yesterday by detectives.
Okay. About what?
I don't know. What was it about, Randy?
I don't know.
They found my DNA and your DNA on a watch in Minnesota in some campground called Blue Mound.
Okay, they didn't tell me that.
Well, that's what they told me. If I'm going to end up going to prison for the rest of my life for something that I didn't do and you did, I'm going to be mad. I'm more mad now. Because there's something else you're not telling me.
No, it's not.
How in the hell do they have our DNA on a watch?
I have no idea.
What do you mean you have no idea? I've not been in Minnesota. Have you?
No.
How about May of 2001, Randy? Like shortly after we got married?
I don't believe. No.
Don't play stupid, Randy. This is serious. You know something, Randy. You have to tell me. I'm going to end up going to prison for something I don't know nothing about. What happened May 20th, Randy? It was on a Sunday. It was a week before Memorial Weekend.
I don't know.
It's Blue Mound.
I don't know.
Somewhere in Minnesota.
I've never been there.
Somebody has our DNA on a watch.
She recounted a day in May 2001 when the car was suspiciously damaged. She questioned him about his involvement in the death of Carrie. However, he assured her that he was not involved, adding that he hadn't ever even been to the Blue Mound State Park. But this wasn't enough to convince the police that he wasn't involved. Police believe that the following is what happened on the day in question, and what they would put forward in their prosecution argument. Randy went into the contact station that day and stole the cash out of the register, thinking that it was left unattended and that he was alone. However, he wasn't alone. Carrie was nearby. When she challenged him, he punched her in the nose and pulled her into the back room in order to get her to unlock the safe. He put pressure on her neck and used her uniform and necklace as ligatures as he dragged her towards the money. As soon as Carrie opened the safe and Randy had the money that he wanted, things turned even darker. Carrie had seen Randy's face, so he decided to end her life. He got what he went for, so he hit Carrie several times in the head with the engraved rock. A grand jury charged Randy with first-degree murder in 2007. In 2008, the case went to trial. Randy entered a not guilty plea. Randy's own family testified that he smoked Doral Light 100 cigarettes, frequently wore the Field Ranger wristwatch, and that he drove an Oldsmobile Delta 88 in 2001. Two inmates that knew Randy spoke to the jury, telling them that he had confessed to the crime. One inmate claimed that Randy knew the location of the Blue Mound State Park and was aware that his watch had been left there when Carrie was killed. The second inmate claimed that after speaking with the police about the slaying of Carrie, Randy informed him that "they got me this time and I'm gonna do life." The defense argued that Randy was not at the park on the day in question and did not kill Carrie. Randy also gave testimony at the trial. He said that on May the 20th, 2001, he was driving the Oldsmobile on the way to South Dakota. He said that day he went fishing alone. He claimed that the damage to the car mentioned by Dawn resulted from a collision with a tree stump on the way home. Randy admitted in court that despite his initial denials, he may have visited the contact station at some point to inquire about the camping fees, despite first stating he had never even heard of Blue Mound State Park. He claimed, however, that he wasn't there on the day in question. The prosecution questioned him, however, if he hadn't visited in May, how were his finger and palm prints on flyers that had only recently been put out? A park worker testified that she had only distributed those flyers 4 days prior to Carrie's slaying. Randy was now unable to offer an explanation. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Randy was found guilty. He was given a life sentence in prison with no chance of parole. Randy, however, addressed Carrie's family during the sentence hearing and assured them of his innocence. Randy said, "There is still a murderer out there."
That I did not kill Carrie Nelson.
Carrie's father, Stan, sadly passed away in April of 2022. Do you think the punishment fits the crime here? Let me know down in the comments. Join the Dark Case family by hitting subscribe now and turning on notifications. Like the video to boost the signal with this case. Thank you to all my patrons: Rachel David, Kathy Green, David James, Addy Alexander, Karen Jones, El Palneri, James Harrington, Shane Woodward, Faster River, Stacey Krogerus, Summer Chambers, Mona Corona, Cepheid Variable, Anthony Watson and Jeremy Sebranek. Be careful out there and I'll see you soon.